There's a version of an argument you had with someone that never actually happened. You replayed it at 2 in the morning. You found the perfect comeback. They apologized, finally, and meant it. None of it was real, and your body still reacted like it was. Your jaw tightened. Your chest got heavy. Your heart rate climbed over a conversation that only existed inside your own head. If that sounds familiar, you already know something most people spend their whole lives trying not to look at. Pain doesn't need a real event to keep hurting you. It just needs a memory, real or imagined, that your mind refuses to put down. And here's the part that should actually bother you. Most of what people call moving on is just burying that memory a little deeper, not clearing it. Which means it comes back. A different person, a different situation, the exact same ache. The same pattern with a third partner in a row. The same fight with a different coworker wearing a different face. The same shame showing up in a new outfit. What if there was a way to actually clear it? Not manage it, not distract from it, but remove it at the root. There's a practice built entirely around that idea. It's old. It sounds almost too simple to work, and one man reportedly used it to help an entire ward of criminally committed patients without speaking to a single one of them face to face. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to have 4 short phrases that can start dismantling years of buried weight, and you're going to know exactly how to use them. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is a good time to do that. And if this kind of content resonates with you, hitting like helps the channel reach more people. The practice is called Ho'oponopono. It comes from Hawaii, and the word itself translates roughly to make right, or to correct an error. For generations, it lived as a family ritual, a way for Hawaiian households to sit together, name what had gone wrong between them, and restore balance before resentment could take root and spread through the family line. It never required a church, a guru, or a specific set of beliefs. It required honesty and a willingness to take responsibility, which, if you actually sit with that, is a far higher bar than most spiritual practices ever ask of you. In the 1970s, a Hawaiian healer named Morna Simeona took that traditional family practice and adapted it into something a single person could use alone, without a family gathering, without a mediator, just a person and their own willingness to look inward. She called it self-identity through Ho'oponopono, and the version most people know today traces directly back to her. One of her students was a clinical psychologist named Dr. Ihaleakala Hugh Len, and his story is the reason this practice eventually crossed oceans and ended up in front of you. The story goes like this. Dr. Hugh Len took a position at a psychiatric facility in Hawaii, working with a ward that housed patients who had committed violent crimes and were deemed criminally insane. Staff turnover on that ward was brutal. People quit constantly, assaults were common, and the general mood inside those walls was somewhere between hopeless and dangerous. Dr. Hugh Len reportedly never held regular therapy sessions with these patients. Instead, he sat with their files, read their histories, and did something almost nobody would think to try. He didn't try to fix them. He looked inward and asked what part of him had created or attracted this reality. And then he repeated the 4 phrases you are about to learn, directed at himself, over and over, while reviewing each file. According to the accounts that later spread through Joe Vitale's book on the subject, within months, the ward began to change. Patients who had been sedated and shackled were reportedly allowed to walk freely. Staff who had dreaded their shifts started requesting to work there. Eventually, the story goes, the ward closed because it was no longer needed at that scale. Whether you take that story as literal fact or as a parable, the principle underneath it is what actually matters. And it's worth sitting with for a second, because it will probably rub you the wrong way at first. The core idea of Ho'oponopono is total responsibility. Not blame, responsibility. The premise is that everything you experience, every conflict, every wound, every recurring problem, exists first as a memory or a program running somewhere inside you, and what shows up in your outer life is a reflection of what's already playing on repeat internally. That does not mean you caused someone else's actions. It means the charge you carry around those actions, the part that keeps replaying and hooking into new situations, is yours to clean, because it lives in you, not in them. Read that twice if you need to, because most people hear this and immediately think it sounds like victim blaming. It isn't. Nobody is saying you deserved what happened to you. What's being said is that you are the only person in the room with access to your own inner replay, and trying to control other people or rewrite the past has never actually worked for anyone. Not once. Not for you. Not for me. The only lever you've ever truly had is the one inside your own skin. So instead of trying to change the person who hurt you or the situation that keeps repeating, Ho'oponopono asks you to clean whatever it is in you that keeps attracting or amplifying that pattern. And the tool for that cleaning is absurdly simple. 4 phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. That's the entire technique on the surface. You don't need incense. You don't need a specific time of day. You don't need anyone's permission. You bring to mind whatever is bothering you, a person, a memory, a fear, a physical pain, a recurring argument, and you quietly repeat those 4 phrases, directed inward, not at the other person. You're not apologizing to them. You're addressing the part of yourself that's holding the charge. Each phrase carries its own function, and understanding what each one is doing will make the practice land differently for you. I'm sorry is an acknowledgement, not of guilt in the legal sense, but of the fact that something in you, consciously or not, is connected to this pain being present in your life right now. Please forgive me is a request aimed at yourself, at your own resistance, at the part of you that's been gripping this memory so tightly for so long. Thank you is gratitude, not necessarily for the event itself, but for the chance to finally see it, name it, and let it go instead of carrying it for another decade. I love you is the phrase that actually does the neutralizing, because love, in this framework, is treated as the force that dissolves resistance, the same way heat dissolves ice. You don't have to fully understand what memory you're clearing. That's actually one of the more freeing parts of this practice. You don't need a therapist's diagnosis or a clear narrative of where the wound came from. You just need to notice the discomfort, aim the 4 phrases at it, and let the repetition do its work underneath your conscious awareness. Think about how much of your daily friction runs on autopilot. You snap at someone over something small, and later you can't even explain why it hit you that hard. That reaction wasn't really about the small thing. It was an old program firing off a response that had nothing to do with the present moment. Ho'oponopono treats those autopilot reactions as evidence of memories that are overdue for cleaning. Let's make this practical, because a technique only matters if you can actually use it. Say you're anxious about money, and that anxiety has been sitting in your chest for years, flaring up every time a bill arrives or a payment is due. You don't need to solve your entire financial history in one sitting. You simply bring the anxiety into your awareness and repeat, silently, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Directing the words at whatever inside you is generating that fear. Say you're in a relationship, and your partner does something minor, forgets to text back, comes home distracted, and you feel a disproportionate wave of hurt. Instead of immediately reacting or building a case in your head, you pause and run the same 4 phrases toward that surge of emotion before you say a single word out loud. Say you're lying awake, replaying a conversation from years ago, one that still makes your stomach drop when it surfaces. You bring that memory forward on purpose. Look at it directly instead of pushing it away, and repeat the phrases until the emotional charge softens. None of this requires you to fix the external situation first. The claim at the heart of Ho'oponopono is that once you clean the internal charge, your relationship to the external situation changes on its own, sometimes dramatically, sometimes so quietly. You barely notice until you realize the old trigger doesn't land the way it used to. This connects directly to something people in personal development circles talk about constantly: the idea of vibration or emotional state shaping what keeps showing up in your life. When you're carrying unprocessed resentment, fear, or grief, you tend to react from a narrower, more defensive place. And that narrower place tends to attract more situations that confirm the fear. When you clean that internal weight, you're not becoming naive or unbothered by real problems. You're becoming less reactive, which changes how you show up, which changes what you notice, which changes what you're willing to try. Problems don't disappear because you practice Ho'oponopono. They still show up because that's what life does. The difference is in how you meet them, whether from an old, reactive script running underneath your awareness, or from a cleaner, steadier place that can actually respond instead of just repeating the same pattern one more time. Now, you don't have to take any of this purely on faith, because there's real research that supports pieces of the mechanism, even if the spiritual framing isn't something science can test directly. Studies on forgiveness consistently show measurable drops in cortisol, better sleep quality, and improved cardiovascular markers in people who practice it regularly, whether that forgiveness is aimed at someone else or at themselves. Research on gratitude shows similar effects, including reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression when people keep even a simple, consistent gratitude practice going over a period of weeks. And repetitive, intention-based phrases function a lot like a targeted meditation, engaging the parts of the brain tied to self-regulation and emotional processing, rather than the reactive, fight-or-flight circuitry that tends to run the show when you're stressed. So even if you strip away every mystical layer, you're left with a practice that combines forgiveness, gratitude, and focused repetition. Three things that, independently, have decent evidence behind them for lowering stress and improving emotional resilience. Put together in 4 short phrases, they become something you can actually use in the middle of a hard day, not just in a journal at night. You can practice this anywhere, and that's part of what makes it different from meditation retreats or hour-long rituals that never survive contact with a real schedule. You can run the phrases while washing dishes, while driving, while walking, while lying in bed, unable to sleep because your mind won't stop circling the same thought. Some people extend the phrase into something closer to a longer request, something like, "Whatever in me is contributing to this situation, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you." Directed at whatever they call the deeper intelligence behind their thoughts, whether that's a higher self, a subconscious, or something more spiritual. You don't need that extended version to make it work. The 4 core phrases are enough on their own. Some people write them on sticky notes and leave them around the house, on a mirror, on a laptop, on the fridge, as a quiet reminder throughout the day. Some people wear a bracelet with the words on it. Some people fall asleep to an audio loop of the phrases repeating quietly in the background, letting the repetition work on them while they're not consciously focused on anything at all. None of that is required. It's just scaffolding for people who want a physical reminder until the practice becomes automatic. Here's the honest challenge in all of this. The technique is not complicated, and that's exactly why so many people dismiss it before giving it a real chance. 4 phrases feels too small to matter next to years of accumulated hurt, and your logical mind will absolutely push back and tell you this can't possibly be enough. But the people who actually stick with it for more than a few days tend to describe the same thing: a gradual sense of lightness, situations that used to trigger them landing softer, old resentments losing their grip a little more each week. You don't have to believe any of the mystical backstory to test it. You just need one recurring irritation, one memory that still stings when it surfaces, one relationship pattern that keeps repeating with different names attached to it, and a week where you actually try the 4 phrases instead of dismissing them on sight. Pick one thing that's been sitting heavy in you. Bring it to mind right now, clearly enough that you can feel it in your body. And quietly in your head, say it once: "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you." You don't have to feel a shift immediately. You just have to be willing to keep doing it in small moments across an ordinary week, and watch whether the weight you've been carrying starts to feel a little lighter than it did before you started. See you in the next video. Until then.